Hey, if you're watching this, I'm guessing you've been there, lying awake at 2 a.m. replaying that text your partner sent, dissecting their tone, wondering if they really meant okay or if it was passive-aggressive. Or maybe you just had a great date, but instead of enjoying the moment, you're mentally writing a breakup speech because what if they're losing interest? Sound familiar? Overthinking in relationships is exhausting. It's like your brain is a browser with 50 tabs open and you can't find the one playing that loud, annoying ad. You know it's irrational, but you can't stop. And the worst part? It doesn't even help. It just steals your joy, makes you act insecure, and pushes your partner away, even if they're crazy about you. I get it. Maybe you've been hurt before. Maybe you're scared of being blindsided, so you try to prepare by imagining every worst-case scenario. But here's the truth. Overthinking isn't protecting you. It's just robbing you of the love and peace you deserve right now. The good news? You can break the cycle. It's not about magically never worrying again. It's about rewiring how you respond to those thoughts. And today, I'm giving you the exact steps that helped me and thousands of others. No fluff, just real, practical tools to quiet the noise and start feeling secure in your relationship. But first, take a breath. Literally, right now. Inhale for 4 seconds. Hold it. Exhale for 6. Feels a little lighter already, doesn't it? That's your proof. You do have control. Let's dive in. Part 1. Understand why you overthink. You ever catch yourself replaying a conversation in your head like 50 times? Like, they didn't reply fast enough, or their tone seemed off, and suddenly you're spiraling, thinking maybe they're losing interest. Maybe you said something wrong. Maybe it's all falling apart. That's overthinking, and it's exhausting. But here's the thing. You're not crazy, and you're not broken. You're just wired a certain way because of the experiences you've had. And those experiences taught your brain that love might not always feel safe. Overthinking in relationships almost always comes from fear. Not random fear, but a deeper fear of abandonment, rejection, or not being enough. It's usually rooted in insecurity. Maybe from a childhood where love felt conditional, or a past relationship where someone betrayed your trust. So now, even in a good relationship, your brain is constantly scanning for danger. You're hyper-aware of tone changes, response times, little signs that something might be off. Because your nervous system doesn't want to be caught off guard again. It thinks it's protecting you. And that's where attachment styles come in. If you have an anxious attachment style, you probably crave closeness and reassurance. You want to feel safe. But you don't always believe that safety will last. So you overanalyze everything. Did they mean what they said? Are they pulling away? Why didn't they text back with a heart emoji this time? You think that if you can just figure it out, if you can find the pattern, you can stop yourself from getting hurt. But the truth is, this kind of thinking doesn't prevent pain. It often creates it. On the flip side, someone with a secure attachment style doesn't go down that rabbit hole. They can still get triggered, sure, but they usually trust the relationship, unless given a clear reason not to. That trust allows their brain to relax. But if you didn't grow up with that kind of emotional safety, or if you've been through betrayal, your brain might struggle to turn off the threat alarms, even when things are fine. What makes it worse is how the brain actually processes perceived threats. See, your brain doesn't just react to what's actually happening, it reacts to what it thinks is happening. So if it feels like your partner is pulling away, even if they're just tired or distracted, your brain may treat it as a real danger. Your fight or flight system kicks in, and that's when you start texting again, rereading messages, replaying that phone call in your head, trying to decode every word. You think you're solving the problem, but you're actually feeding the anxiety loop. It's wild how much the brain magnifies what might happen. It starts with one small question, like, why didn't they call tonight? And that quickly snowballs into stories like, they're losing interest, or they're with someone else, or I always ruin things. None of those thoughts are facts, but your body reacts like they are. Your heart races, your stomach turns, you feel this deep unease, and then you look to your partner for relief. But if you don't get the exact response you hoped for, it only adds fuel to the fire. That's why it's so important to realize that overthinking doesn't come out of nowhere. It's your nervous system trying to protect you in the only way it knows how, by staying hypervigilant. But the problem is love isn't meant to feel like surveillance. It's meant to feel like peace. So the first step isn't to shame yourself for overthinking. It's to understand it. Ask yourself, what am I really afraid of here? Is it that they'll leave? That I won't be good enough? That I'll repeat the past? Bring that fear into the light, because once you name it, you can start working with it instead of letting it run the show in the background. Most of us didn't get a manual for how to feel secure in love. We just picked up survival strategies along the way, some of which helped us in the past, but are now hurting us. Overthinking is one of those strategies. So if you notice it coming up in your relationship, don't panic. Just pause. Get curious, because awareness is always the first step to healing. Part 2. Challenge negative thoughts. So now you understand why you overthink, but here's the next step. What do you actually do when those thoughts hit you like a wave? Because let's be real. Even when you know your fear isn't logical, it still feels very real in the moment. That's the thing about thoughts. They're convincing. And if you don't catch them, they start to feel like truth. This is where challenging your thoughts becomes a superpower, not ignoring them, not shoving them down, but checking them. Like a bouncer at the door of your mind asking, do you really belong here? Let's say you're thinking, they're losing interest in me. Okay, pause. Is that a fact or a feeling? That one question alone can stop the spiral. Then ask yourself, what's the actual evidence? Did they say they're not interested? Did they act differently? Or are you assuming based on one moment, one text, one delay? Sometimes we take one little action and create an entire narrative out of fear. Here's a powerful trick. Whenever you find yourself spiraling, hit pause and ask, what else could be true? Like, maybe they're stressed from work, maybe their battery died, maybe they didn't use a heart emoji in their text, not because they don't care, but because they were rushing or distracted or just not thinking about emojis like you are. See, overthinking thrives on worst-case scenarios. Your brain starts whispering, what if they leave? What if they're cheating? What if I'm not enough? And when you entertain those what-ifs long enough, they start to feel like reality. So instead of feeding that, flip the script. Replace what if with what is. What is actually happening right now? They haven't replied in 3 hours. That's a fact. Everything else, that they're ignoring you, that they're over you, that's a story your mind is telling. Learn to separate the two. Because most of the pain we feel isn't from the event itself. It's from the story we attach to it. Another question I love is, what's the worst that could realistically happen? And could I handle it? Because fear only owns you when you believe you can't survive it. But most of the time, you can. Maybe the worst is that they don't feel the same way. And yeah, that would hurt, but it wouldn't destroy you. You've survived hard things before. You're still here. You're still standing. When you stop being afraid of the worst-case scenario, it loses its power. And what you're left with is reality. And reality is almost always less dramatic than the horror movie playing in your head. It also helps to notice the tone of your thoughts. Are they kind or cruel? Are they protective or punishing? Because your inner voice matters. It becomes your lens for the world. If your inner dialogue is constantly saying, they're going to leave, you're not enough, something must be wrong, then of course you're going to feel anxious all the time. But what if that voice said something different? What if it said, I don't know what's going on yet, and that's okay. I'm allowed to wait. I'm allowed to feel uncertain without jumping to the worst conclusion. What if it said, Even if something is off, I trust myself to handle it with grace. That's not delusion. That's emotional maturity. See, thoughts come and go all day, but you get to decide which ones you engage with. Just because a thought shows up doesn't mean you owe it your energy. You can say, "Not helpful," and move on. You can say, "That's fear talking," and choose stillness instead. It's a muscle, this awareness. And like any muscle, it takes practice. You might not get it right every time, and that's okay. But each time you challenge a negative thought instead of believing it blindly, you're rewiring your brain. You're teaching it to calm down, to pause, to stop catastrophizing. And that's a huge step toward peace. So next time you catch yourself spiraling, try this. Pause, name the thought, ask, is it fact or fear? Then challenge it with compassion, not judgment. And remind yourself, thoughts are just thoughts. They are not prophecies. They are not fate. And they are definitely not the full story. Part 3. Improve communication with your partner. So now you've started to catch the thoughts, to question them, instead of letting them control you. That's powerful. But there's something else that can completely change the way overthinking shows up in your relationship: communication. Here's the truth most of us don't realize. Overthinking often comes from all the things we don't say out loud, the stuff we bottle up, the assumptions we make, the fears we try to handle internally while pretending everything's fine on the outside. But that silence, it builds walls. And those walls become the perfect space for your mind to make up stories. So if you want to stop spiraling, you have to start speaking. Now I get it. Talking about your fears isn't easy. It feels vulnerable. You might be thinking, what if I come off as needy? What if I push them away? But bottling it up doesn't make it go away. It just lets it grow in the dark. That's why how you communicate matters just as much as what you say. The key is to stop assuming your partner can read your mind, because they can't. They don't know that when they don't text you back quickly, it triggers a fear from your past. They don't know that when they seem distracted, your brain starts telling you you're not enough. And they won't know unless you tell them, but there's a right way to do it. You don't want to come at them with accusations like, "You never care about me," or "You always ignore me." That just makes people shut down. Instead, try something simple but honest. "I feel anxious when I don't hear from you. And I know it's probably nothing, but I just wanted to say it out loud." That's it. No blaming, no attacking, just truth. Use "I feel" statements, not "You make me feel." It keeps the focus on your experience, not their behavior. You're not demanding anything, you're sharing. And when your partner sees that you're coming from a place of self-awareness instead of blame, they're much more likely to listen and respond with compassion instead of defensiveness. And look, sometimes it's not about having some big, deep conversation every time something bothers you. Sometimes it's just about creating a rhythm of open, healthy communication. That's where something like worry time can help. It sounds weird, but it works. Pick 10 minutes a day or a couple times a week where you and your partner check in. No distractions, just a space to ask, "Hey, is there anything on your mind?" Or, "How are we feeling about us lately?" It's like routine maintenance for your relationship. Instead of waiting until everything builds up and explodes, you create space to deal with things while they're still small. And you might find that just knowing there's a time to talk takes the edge off. Your brain doesn't have to panic at every little silence because it knows there's a safe space coming where things can be worked through. But here's the thing. You can't expect your partner to carry all your anxiety for you. Communication is not a fix for your fear. It's just a bridge. It helps you feel seen and safe, but you still have to do your own work. Still, that bridge, it's powerful. Because when two people feel safe to express, not just their love, but their fears, their doubts, their needs, that's where real intimacy happens. So if something's bothering you, don't wait. Don't replay it in your head 50 times, hoping it'll sort itself out. Say it, kindly, clearly, without expectation or drama. Just say, "Hey, I need to get this off my chest." Your partner can't meet a need they don't know exists. And you deserve to be in a relationship where you don't have to overthink everything, because the communication is strong enough to hold space for both your minds. Part 4. Build self-confidence outside the relationship. One of the biggest reasons people overthink in relationships is because they've made the relationship their whole emotional anchor, their whole identity. So when things feel even slightly off, when a message is late, when a tone shifts, when plans change, it shakes their entire world. Because deep down, their sense of worth is tied to how their partner treats them. But here's the truth. Most people don't want to admit. No relationship can give you the kind of peace that comes from within. You can't rely on someone else to be your constant source of reassurance, your mirror, your entire emotional stability. That's way too much pressure on one person. And it's the fast track to anxiety and disappointment. The real freedom, the kind that makes love feel safe instead of suffocating, comes from building a life and identity that's full even outside of your relationship. Think about it like this. If your partner's affection is the only place you get validation, then of course you're going to obsess over every little shift in their behavior, because they've become the judge and jury of your worth. But when you start investing in yourself, your passions, your people, your goals, you create a bigger emotional landscape, one where a single cloud doesn't block out the entire sun. Start simple. What are the things that light you up, that have nothing to do with your partner? Is it writing, running, playing music, volunteering, creating something, hanging with friends who get you? Whatever it is, do more of it. Reconnect with your own life. Because the more grounded you feel outside the relationship, the less power your mind has to spiral inside of it. And don't underestimate the power of friendships either. A lot of people rely too heavily on their partner to meet all their emotional needs. That's not love, that's dependency. You need other people in your corner, people who remind you of your worth, your strength, your value, even when your relationship feels shaky, especially then. Another game changer? Self-validation. It means telling yourself the things you keep waiting to hear from someone else. Saying, "I am enough, even if they're distant today." Or, "My value doesn't drop just because they're having a bad mood." You start to become your own anchor, and that's what kills overthinking. When you stop outsourcing your peace and start building it internally. It also means recognizing when you're chasing love to fix a deeper emptiness. Because sometimes, what we call overthinking is really just our inner child asking, "Am I safe? Am I loved? Will you stay?" But the truth is, no partner, no matter how perfect, can heal wounds you haven't looked at yourself. That's your job. And it's one of the most empowering things you can do. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be emotionally bulletproof, but you do need to show up for yourself, to remind yourself that even when your relationship feels confusing, you are still whole, you're still worthy. You're still allowed to take up space and live a full, rich life outside of how someone else feels about you. And ironically, when you build that kind of self-trust, your relationship usually improves too. Why? Because your energy shifts. You stop clinging, you stop panicking, you show up with calm, with curiosity, with confidence. And that energy, it's magnetic. So if you're tired of overthinking, start by coming home to yourself. Get back in touch with what makes you feel alive. Rebuild your self-worth brick by brick, through the way you treat yourself, the boundaries you set, the dreams you chase. Because the more you remember who you are outside of love, the less your mind will try to tear you apart inside of it. Part 5. Mindfulness and grounding techniques. Sometimes the overthinking doesn't come in words, it comes in sensations. That tight feeling in your chest, the racing heartbeat, that sinking in your stomach that you can't explain. Your mind is running 100 miles an hour, but your body's already reacting like something terrible has happened, even if nothing actually has. That's when logic stops working. You could tell yourself, it's fine, nothing's wrong, but your nervous system doesn't believe you. It's already in survival mode. And in those moments, you don't need more thinking. You need grounding. You need to come back into your body, into the present. Because the present is almost always safer than the story in your head. That's where mindfulness comes in. Mindfulness isn't just about meditating or sitting cross-legged with your eyes closed. It's about catching yourself in the moment and saying, wait, come back, you're here, not there. It's about breaking the loop of spiraling thoughts by reconnecting with what's real right now. One of the fastest ways to do that is with your breath. Seriously, just stop and take one deep, slow breath. In through your nose, hold it, and out through your mouth like you're fogging up a mirror. Do that again, and again. You'll feel it. Your shoulders drop, your heart slows, your mind softens, even if just a little. Because when you focus on your breath, your brain can't stay fully in fear mode. You're giving it a new signal. We're okay right now. Another great tool is the 5-4-3-2-1 method. When you feel like you're about to lose control or your mind is spinning out, use your senses to anchor yourself. Name 5 things you can see right now, then 4 things you can touch: your clothes, your hands, the chair. Things you can hear, even if it's just the fan or background noise. Things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste or that you're grateful for in the moment. This brings you out of your head and back into the room. You're reminding your nervous system, we're not in danger, we're just having a thought. Also, and this one's big, limit your social media use, especially when you're in an overthinking spiral. Because let's be honest, stalking your partner's likes, checking when they were last online, comparing your relationship to picture-perfect couples, it never helps. It just fuels the anxiety and makes the stories in your head feel more real. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your peace is put the phone down. If you can, create small routines throughout your day that pull you back to yourself. Go for a walk and actually notice the trees, the sky, the air. Do something with your hands. Draw, clean, cook, move your body, even if it's just stretching for 5 minutes. All of this brings you into the now. And in the now, there's usually no threat. Just a body, breathing. A person, alive. A moment, happening. And when you find yourself spiraling again, and you will because you're human, don't get mad at yourself. Don't label it as failure. Just notice it. Say, oh hey, here comes the fear again, and then gently return to your breath, your body, your truth. Because overthinking isn't something you have to fight. It's something you can soften. One moment, one breath, one grounding at a time.